I'm afraid the global financial and macroeconomic situation has not been improved very much so far. So the discussion at the next London summit meeting will be really crucial. We had this G7 meeting in Washington, but unfortunately, in my view, there was no clear, concrete agreement among them. And I think that was inevitable because the situation in each country is not same. Impact of this crisis, damage done on their financial system, damage done on their macroeconomic situation, well, is certainly different. Nevertheless, I think it is quite obvious that one very important feature of the current crisis is that the world economy is now almost totally integrated as a result of the globalization. And there was no clear case of decoupling, and I think that's inevitable, and we shouldn't regret about that because globalization brought about many tangible benefits with it so far. But now we're going to have 20 countries instead of 7 countries, which include many emerging economies and important emerging economies. So I think need is greater there in London to ascertain that all those 20 country representatives, leaders, would agree the fact that the world is now totally integrated, and therefore they have to move in the same direction. Maybe the instruments they bring in are different, but at least they should agree that the goal is to first to stabilize the financial market, and then second is to start stimulating the global demand situation. Anglo-Saxon countries, particularly in the United States and in the United Kingdom, this financial liberalization has progressed very much, and I think those Anglo-Saxon countries have benefited from that liberalization very much. But now they have to realize that process went a bit too far, and that excess has produced some damages on their system. But in other countries, particularly in Asian countries and other emerging economies, I don't think that they have reached that limit of sort of extreme limit of the liberalization yet. In other words, for them, there are still many areas where they can benefit from the deregulation and the liberalization of financial industries. So I think particularly Mr. Brown, the chairman of this meeting, should recognize that in some countries the financial deregulation, liberalization went a bit too far, but in other countries they have not benefited fully from the deregulation and liberalization. So I think as a chairman, Mr. Gordon Brown should clearly recognize the different situation among these countries. So certainly I know there is a strong voice, particularly in Europe, asking for stricter oversight, regulation, even restriction over the banking industry activities. But you have to be very, very careful.
And in terms of the role of the IMF and the Financial Stability Forum, for example, do you expect or hope for a greater role for those institutions?
Certainly, I hope. I have a very strong hope for the IMF and Financial Stability Forum to play a greater role. But after all, those international fora consist of and is driven by major partners. So unless the major participants, major players in those organizations do agree that they are willing to give those international fora greater responsibility and greater authority, that's very important. Not only greater responsibility, but also greater authority which can, circumvent the individual national authority sometimes. Huh?